It is 12:14 in the morning, September 26th, 1983. A man in a Soviet military bunker is staring at a screen that says, very clearly, that the United States has just launched 5 nuclear missiles at his country. He has minutes to decide what to do. What he decides next is the reason you are alive today. His name was Stanislav Petrov. He was a lieutenant colonel in the Soviet Air Defense Forces. And his job, that night, was to watch a system called Azuco. Azuco, in Russian, means eye. 9 satellites in high orbit, designed to spot the heat signature of an American missile launch the second it left the ground. If Azuco saw a launch, Petrov's job was simple. Pick up a red phone. Inform his superior. His superior would inform the general secretary. The general secretary at that moment was Yuri Andropov. Andropov was suffering from kidney failure, reportedly paranoid, and convinced that the West was preparing a first strike. He would almost certainly have ordered an immediate retaliation. The Cold War in 1983 was not theoretical. 3 weeks earlier, the Soviet military had shot down a Korean passenger jet, killing 269 people, including a sitting U.S. congressman. American forces were running enormous military exercises across Europe. The arms race was peaking. Nuclear war was, in the most literal sense, one button press away. And Petrov was the button. Petrov was, by background, not really a soldier. He was an engineer. He had helped design parts of the very system he was now watching, which meant he understood something most of his colleagues did not. He knew Azuco was new. He knew it had a known flaw, a blind spot where sunlight, at certain angles, in late September, reflecting off high-altitude clouds, could potentially look like a missile launch to the sensors. The engineers who built it had flagged this. Most of the operators on duty had never been told. That night, at 12:15 in the morning, the screen lit up. One word, in large red letters. Launch. A single intercontinental ballistic missile, originating from a U.S. Air Force base in Montana, was, according to the computer, on its way. Petrov froze. The room around him erupted. Klaxons. Red lights. The chain of command was supposed to start within 30 seconds of an alert. His subordinates were already reaching for the protocol. But Petrov hesitated. Something felt wrong. The United States, if it were going to launch a first strike, would not send one missile. It would send hundreds. A single missile made no military sense. It was, by every doctrine he had ever studied, exactly the wrong number. He picked up the phone, but not the red one. He called his commanding officer on the regular line and reported the alert as a system malfunction. Not as a launch. He had no proof. He had a gut feeling, an engineering instinct, and roughly 20 seconds before the protocol said he should have called Moscow. Then the screen changed. A second missile, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. The system was now reporting 5 American ICBMs on their way. With a confidence level the computer rated as highest. The entire bunker was now in motion. Other officers were shouting at Petrov to confirm the launch, to start the chain, to do his job. Petrov stared at the screen for what he later described as a few of the longest seconds of his life. And then he did something that would, if he was wrong, make him personally responsible for the survival of his nation. He picked up the regular line again. He called his commanding officer. And he said, calmly, false alarm. Then he waited. If he was right, the world would continue. If he was wrong, the first American warheads would strike Soviet soil within roughly 20 minutes. He would know whether he had just made the most important decision in human history, or the most catastrophic one, before the sun came up. 20 minutes passed. Then 40. Then an hour. Nothing happened. The investigation that followed took weeks. What investigators discovered was almost exactly what Petrov had guessed in those 20 seconds. The Azuco satellites had picked up sunlight reflecting off high-altitude cirrus clouds above North Dakota, at an angle that occurred only at that time of year, during a specific window of solar position. The reflections matched, just barely, the thermal signature the computer was trained to recognize as a launch. The system had not malfunctioned. It had worked exactly as designed. The design was wrong. If Petrov had followed protocol, the Soviet Union would have launched. The United States would have detected those launches, with no warning of the cause, and would have responded in full. Estimates from declassified war games suggest that within 4 hours, tens of millions of people would have been dead. Within a week, the cascade of nuclear winter and infrastructure collapse would have killed most of the rest. Petrov stopped that. By doing nothing. By trusting his engineer's instinct over a computer system that was, by every official measure, certain. Petrov was not promoted. He was not given a medal. He was quietly transferred to a less sensitive post, and the Soviet leadership pretended the incident had never happened. The official report concluded that the Azuco system needed software updates. It did not mention the name, Stanislav Petrov. He retired in 1984. He lived in a small apartment outside Moscow, with his wife and 2 children. For years, nobody outside a tight circle of Soviet military officers knew what he had done. The world found out in 1998, when a former Soviet general published a memoir that included a single paragraph about the September 26th incident. By then, Petrov was 59 years old, living on a small Russian state pension. Journalists tracked him down. They asked him how it felt to have saved the world. He told them, repeatedly, that he had not saved the world. He had done his job. He had analyzed the situation, used his training, and reached a conclusion that turned out to be correct. He was, he said, an engineer. Engineers do this every day. Most of them just do it about smaller things. Stanislav Petrov died in 2017, in that same apartment outside Moscow. He was 77 years old. His son found his body. The Russian government did not issue a statement. No state funeral. No headlines, except in the foreign press. There are now a few small memorials to him in the world. A bust in Germany, an annual award from a peace organization that he received once, had a ceremony attended by perhaps 50 people. That is the entire monument, globally, to the man who quietly decided not to start World War III. Which raises a question that this channel is going to keep asking. How many other Petrovs are there? Sitting in rooms we will never see, making decisions we will never hear about, holding the world together with judgment calls that the official record will never acknowledge? The honest answer is, probably more than we think. And the technology that asks them to make those calls is only getting more powerful. The windows of time they have to make them are only getting shorter. But that is a story for another video.